Hey everyone, and welcome back to Dragline Dynamics. I am the Amazing, and in today's video I'll be showing manufacturing methods for a brand new web shooter. I needed to create a number of precise custom metal parts for this project, and this CNC mill certainly came in handy for that. Milling allows the creation of complex shapes and features with a high level of accuracy and repeatability. Since the machine used for this project is quite cheap, it took a lot of trial and error to figure out exactly what it was capable of in terms of feed rate, cut depth, and optimal load. But eventually it proved successful. And because this web shooter uses aluminum as the main material, the final product is strong, lightweight, and corrosion resistant. Sit back and watch as I take you through the milling process and show you how these parts are made from start to finish. Let's get started. The first part we need to create is the web shooter body. This part is the base of the whole design, as it contains the web fluid reservoir, and it is the largest part. There will be a few different setups for this, but the first and most difficult process will be making the initial shape of the body. This process starts out with drilling the 8 holes that sit on top of this part. The process of drilling holes in aluminum typically starts with a critical step, center drilling. This uses a center drill bit, which is a small pointed bit that is used to create a small indentation in the aluminum at the center of where the hole will be drilled. This helps to prevent the main drill bit from slipping while drilling. I do this for all 8 holes. After center drilling, I use a larger drill bit, a number 51 size, to drill out 4 of the holes. These holes will be threaded for mounting any aesthetic casing to the web shooter. The last step is to drill the other 4 holes out with a 39 drill bit. These holes will be threaded to mount the lid to the web shooter body. After these holes are drilled, the real machining can begin. The first milling process is a 3D adaptive clearing process. This carves out the shape of the top of the part, including the protruding elements that contain the number 51 drilled holes, and the chamfers on the sides where the watch strap will be attached. The second milling process is a 2D adaptive clearing that removes all of the material where the web fluid reservoir will be. This happens in 2 depths. I've found with adaptive clearing that it's best to have a maximum depth of cut of around 4 or 5 millimeters. So any geometry deeper than that, I have to do in multiple depths. I make sure to keep the optimal load small, only about 0.25 millimeters, so that I can keep a relatively quick feed rate of around 45 millimeters per minute. Then another 2D adaptive clearing happens, this time with a very shallow pass that is meant to finish the surface that will seal against the rubber that sits between this part and the lid. Finally, it's time to cut out the part from the remaining stock. This is a tricky operation, and it puts a lot of strain on the cutting tool. I found it's best to reduce the cutting speed during this operation to just 1 millimeter per minute. While this is quite slow, it does ensure the safety of the operation. Additionally, I have found success in slowly ramping the tool into the aluminum in a helical manner. I give this helix a pitch of around 1 millimeter. That is to say, each time one parameter is completed, the tool is about 1 millimeter deeper into the material. Because I'm using a ball end mill, I have to be sure that the final contour cutout is performed so that the tool tip is at a depth of around 1 tool radius, in this case 1.5 millimeters, below the bottom of the part. The exactness of this is not super critical, as rough edges will be filed away anyway. For this reason, I stopped the first helical cutout at 0.5 millimeters above the bottom, then cut out the remaining material away using a single perimeter, again at 1 millimeter per minute. The part then needs to be deburred with a file, so I don't slice my fingers open on these edges. Now, this part needs 2 more setups. First, the front-facing holes need to be made so that the valve can be mounted to the body. I make sure to do this with a slow, shallow finishing pass along the edge of the main bore, so that the sealing surface for the valve body is properly smooth. Then, on the other side, I need to make a slightly conical bore for the rear-facing 1/8 inch NPT inlet, which I then cut threads into by hand using more force than I have ever exerted on anything in my entire life. After some more filing and thread cutting, the main body of the web shooter is complete. Of everything that goes into this web shooter, this is by far the most complex part to manufacture. The total machining time for this part is about 35 hours, give or take. I'm just going to quickly go through the other parts, but you get the idea of how complex this is and how much time it took me to figure out exactly what this machine could do. The valve housing is the part that the rubber seals on the valve stem must slide against, so it's important that this surface is smooth as well. After clearing most of the material, I do another smooth, shallow finishing pass on the interior. Then I cut out the part from the surrounding stock using the same method as before. I'll run through how to create this relatively simple toolpath in Autodesk Fusion 360, which is one of the best tools for doing this.
All right, so I'm going to show you guys how you can use 3-axis CNC milling to manufacture this sort of part. It's funny because typically a part like this you would probably make on a lathe, but I don't have a lathe, so usually in Fusion 360 you're going to spend all your time in the design tab. You want to be able to design this part, but once you've done that, you can go to the manufacturing tab here. The first thing you want to do is make a new setup with this button right here. The setup basically consists of what is your stock and where is your origin. So I usually do select z-axis plane and x-axis. So we select the z-axis plane by selecting this plane, and then for this part, the x-axis doesn't matter because it's all symmetrical, so where the x and y axes are don't matter, so we don't need to change anything. We should select a stock box point, and I'm totally fine with the origin being in the center. We need to make our stock. So with this, I like to assume that the part is in the middle of a large plane of material. So we'll just make this quite wide. And in terms of the height, the stock height is 0.625 inches. The model is positioned at the bottom of the stock. You have a setup. So once you have your setup, you'll want to go back to the design tab. I like to do what are called incremental bodies. Basically, you'll make bodies that essentially take the shape of what the stock looks like throughout different steps of machining. I've already made a body for the first process, which is just clearing out all of this material here to get to the plane that will become the top of the part. So once we have that, we can go back to the manufacturing tab and we can create a 2D adaptive clearing. And this is a very simple operation. We can select the contour that we want to machine. We will want stock to leave here, not radial, but axial. And basically stock to leave means this is how much stock it will not remove. 0.5 millimeters left to remove when we do our finishing pass, so we get a nice smooth finish at the bottom there. As I mentioned, for adaptive clearing, I use a cutting feed rate of about 40 millimeters per minute. Optimal load, as I said, so for a fast clearing like we're doing right now, it should be okay to do like 0.25. Multiple depths, we definitely want multiple depths, so maximum roughing step down. Like I said, I want to keep this about 4 millimeters. The ramp is at a really low speed, so I like to keep the clearance height low so it doesn't waste a lot of time ramping in midair. So then we can hit OK, and it will go ahead and create our toolpath. What I want to do now is do the smoothing pass in manufacturing, a 2D pocket, because that is less sort of chaotic than adaptive. Then stock to leave, we want no stock to leave. Maximum step over, keep this really small because we're doing a smoothing pass. So it looks like the simulation has the tool ramping down. Like I said, this is also wasted time, so you could technically have the ramp start even lower, but that is a bit dangerous. So this tool goes over the surface many times, and that should be enough to leave a nice finish. So we're gonna leave it at that. So for the next few manufacturing moves, we don't need an incremental body. Then we want to go into the 3D tab and select pocket clearing. We're going to do like clearing material first, and then another smoothing pass along sort of the contoured surface that we see here. So we're going to select a machining boundary, and we're going to select this boundary. The tool should be inside that boundary at all times. In stock to leave, we might want to go smaller to 0.3. That's all good. We got to make sure to set our top height so it doesn't waste time clearing out material that's already been cleared. Make the height model top just a little bit higher. Okay, so now it's clearing material relatively quickly. That operation should take about an hour. Then we need to just go along that contour. So in the 3D tab, we select contour. Actually, there's a better way to do this. If you just right click on pocket, and then you can create derived operation, so that'll keep a lot of settings the same. And then you select contour. By the way, we definitely should be using a round end mill. Actually gonna go below, see if it can clear out everything for us, all the way down to that hole. We definitely want to repeat finishing pass so that it does another, gets it really smooth. Yes, so that is what we want. So this will take, according to this, it will take 5 hours. But if you want like a near mirror finish, that is totally worth it. The next step and final step is to cut it out. So we can use a 2D contour. You really should do really low. So I do 1 millimeter per minute because I find, so we don't want to lead in and lead out for this. We want a ramp that is a helix. So for this first one, bottom height, we can set to 0.5 above the bottom. Yep, so now we have our helix. We can do a derived operation here. We have the same geometry, except this time our bottom height is at minus 1.6. And there probably will be a burr, but you can file that down.
This part is being left out of my most updated design, and the valve stem will seal directly against the main body. This does require an extra finishing pass on the interior of the main body to benefit the sealing, but overall, this will cut around 10 hours of manufacturing time and increase the efficacy, and through reduction in part count, it will increase the reliability of the final product. The next part I'll discuss is the lid of the webshooter, which sits atop the main body with a seal in between. Now this part must be able to withstand the bending forces imparted by the pressure of the fluid inside, which is around 100 psi. But 1/16 inch thick aluminum should do the job because aluminum is pretty stiff.
Hi, it's me from the future. I was wrong. I had to go about 1 millimeter thicker on the lid, but everything I'm about to say is still true. Just replace me saying 1/16 of an inch with 2.5 millimeters. That's all.
This part is incredibly easy to make. Starting from a 1/16 inch plate, we can use a flat 1/8 inch diameter end mill to drill the 4 mounting holes, and then use the same tool to cut the part out of the plate. That's no tool changes required. The filing of this part is pretty important as well. Well, that's it. The webshooter is fully assembled, and I'm really excited to show it off to all of you. The milling process was an integral part of bringing this project to life, and I hope you enjoyed seeing it in action. About a year and a half ago, I machined the first version of this design manually, adding some 3D printed metal parts from Shapeways. While the surface finish from the giant manual milling machine was much better, this process required me to be machining for a total of 12 hours, which I was only able to do over 4 days. I didn't make another webshooter of this variety until just now, due to the effort required. Now this device was featured in almost every subsequent project from last year. Now I can manufacture a similar design completely in my own laboratory, and I can do it without touching so much as a button. The entire thing can be done in just a couple of days. I'm proud of how everything has come together, and I can't wait to see what this invention will be able to do in the future. As I've shown, I'm already hard at work updating this design for greater efficacy and lower manufacturing time, and hopefully one day soon, a webshooter such as this will be available to all of you. Stay tuned for more videos like this one, and don't forget to leave a like below and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content. If you feel like helping my many projects along, feel free to contribute to my Patreon at patreon.com/theamazing. Check out my Instagram at the.amazing.labs for more frequent updates. Now thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay amazing, and I'll see you in the next one.